And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Thank you, Ken. Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's city council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raised hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Before we stand for the pledge, I just want to make note of the passing of two retired city employees since our last meeting. Jay Foster, who worked at DPW, and Deb Mitchell, who worked in the city controller's office for many years. So following the pledge, we will have silence for both those retired employees. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Kathy, would please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Here.
Counselor Silly,
Here.
Counselor Powers,
Here.
Counselor Scamperly,
Here.
Counselor Stevenson, Counselor Chivo, Counselor Trim, quorum present.
And just to inform the council and the public, Councilor Tebow will be a little late this evening at the school board meeting tonight out at OFA. His brother Don is being recognized for 50 years of volunteer service at the Van Dusen. And certainly it was important that John be there to support his brother and have recognition. So we do expect it before the end of the meeting. So with that, we have one presentation tonight from City Manager Fonda Groves.
Mayor, did you want to wait for Mr. Tebow to have this and take this out of order, or would you like me to start?
I'd like to get going.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you, council. In February, I reached out to council to try and get an understanding of their priorities for the city. I received a great number of feedback items on the direction of where you as council would like to see the city go and what we need to do today to make that happen. Knowing council's priorities is critical for management, and I appreciate council's efforts to share those priorities with us. Tonight, I want to share council's priorities in public as we begin the 2026 budget process. But before we look forward, I think we need to take a realistic look at where we are right now, and that means understanding the city's financial condition as it stands today. Kathy, if you move to the next slide, please. And as you can see in the title of this slide, it says approaching fiscal cliffs. And just because you're approaching a cliff does not necessarily mean you're going to slip and fall into an abyss. But what it does mean is that we need to understand that the city is in fiscal peril. Simply put, we do not measure up to most cities in New York State. Our CTL, constitutional tax limit, is higher than most and approaching 100%. That scares me. We generate less in sales tax per capita. Our household incomes and home values are weak in comparison to comparison communities, and we spend more than we generate in taxes. Why is this important? Why should we worry about these stats? Well, quite frankly, it affects services. It affects the services that we can deliver. We have limited police presence in our community. We pick up less brush. Recreation has seen cutbacks. We have trouble recruiting, and we have lots of vacancies that are prolonged vacancies, and probably because we may not pay enough. We have one administrative person in the building that gets split between 3 departments, when not just a few years ago, each of those departments had an administrative person. City Hall is closed to the public on Fridays. And countless other service cuts that really point to the fact that our fiscal condition needs to be improved. Day after day, city staff prioritizes what it can accomplish versus the work that needs to get done because there's more work than staff. And quite frankly, work that is important to our residents oftentimes does not get done or get done timely just because there's just not enough time in the day to do that. So Kathy, if you'll move to the next slide, please. When fiscal times are tough, like now, you really have 2 choices as council on a direction. Either an austerity plan that cuts or to invest in growth. As I'm still considered, in my opinion anyway, an outsider kind of looking in from the past, and it appears to me that previous councils have tried the austerity approach. And when the county stopped sharing sales tax with us, I think that austerity approach wasn't successful, and the levy in 2024 grew by $1 million at the same time that city capacity remained decimated as far as workload and the ability to get stuff done is. My perception of what this council is looking for is a preferred methodology and a growth strategy, and taking some tax dollars and investing them where it makes sense, where you can get a solid return on that investment to grow the local economy. I believe that is council's priority, and we'll talk about what some of that looks like later on in this presentation. So Kathy, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. If we want to speak about priorities, council expressed to me a bunch of priorities for city government, and I kind of combined them, summed them up, and I came up with the acronym of RISE. And that RISE stands for Responsible Finance and Governance, Infrastructure for the 21st Century, Safe Streets, and Economic and Community Development, RISE. Now, I'm the first to admit it was awful easy to say those four things, and I know the job ahead of us is going to be very difficult. But council has done us the favor of pointing us and the city's team in a particular direction, and now it's up for us to execute. Any way you look at this, the RISE principles start with the fundamentals. Elected officials and appointed officials working together to solve problems, manage tax dollars effectively, and getting the biggest bang for our buck. However, the I, the S, and the E in RISE can't happen if we fail on the R part of that, which is responsible finances and government. These are the priorities that council has shared with me. I just simply put them together, organized it in a message, and maybe came up with what I call a snazzy catchphrase, although there may be others who disagree with that sentiment. But let's go through some of the principles in detail, shall we? And Kathy, if you go to the next slide, please. We start with responsible governance because it sets the stage. As I stated, the RISE fundamentals start with responsible governance and finances. How the city is governed matters greatly on what we can accomplish. In the last year and a half, council has set a new collaborative tone with residents, with city staff, and with other governments, and that may be the most important of all. And that has been noticed amongst the state and is received quite positively. But if we look deeper, the city has an advantage over some communities, specifically the council manager form of government. Elected officials represent the opinions of the voters and leverage the expertise of professional management. Those are the people who know how to do the work of government to solve problems. I think of it kind of as a concert. Council acts as the composer. They write the music of government by determining policy, strategy, and the way forward. Council then hands the music to the manager, who interprets with the management team and executes that music and to deliver services, kind of like a conductor would. So when the conductor-composer relationship works, it works well and works collaboratively, and you see success. Unfortunately, the opposite can be true as well. So embracing the council manager form of government is essential for the future success of the city, and I believe we're on that path. And I thank council for taking the lead in making that a priority. But I will say that our work is nowhere near done yet. Kathy, if you go to the next slide, please. As the slide title says, finances continue to be job number one. Without a stable fiscal base to operate from, the rest of the RISE principles just won't be attainable. Certainly the city can continue to cobble together some grants, accomplish some things, make some progress. But if we're really looking to transform the city into a place where residents want to stay and new people want to come, the city needs to fix its finances. Right now, I've said it before and I'll continue to say it, our tax base cannot afford the cost of city government as it sits today. I know this because of 3 reasons. The first reason is that the city's constitutional tax limit is much higher than most other cities, especially of a comparable size. And as I said before, approaching 100%. The second reason is that the city has run annual deficits since 2022. And the third reason is that costs continue to rise for government while services continue to be downsized. However, not all is lost. For this fiscal year, council did cut taxes by 2% and has agreed with the benchmarks to continue lowering the levy and eliminate the use of fund balance to balance our budgets. Those are 2 critically important steps to fiscal improvement. Management is committed to providing capital improvement plans, multi-year budget analyses, and fund balance policies. Those are all on the horizon, and that will make better use of our resources as we move forward. But we have to remain cautious in the short term. City must control spending to keep as many current services as possible while investing where prudent for longer term economic growth. Next slide, please, Kathy. Now that we've talked about the R, let's talk about the I in RISE, which is infrastructure, and what I call very unappreciated. When you think about it, paved streets, plowed streets in the winter, running water, flushing toilets, et cetera, those oftentimes go unnoticed by our residents, but there's an awful lot of work and an awful lot of investment to make even the simplest of things happen. And the city has done well in the past to invest in its infrastructure. And that makes a better place for people to live. But we have to exceed just the basic expectations if we want people to come here and live here and grow their families here. There's a growing list of amenities, maybe something like an improved marina district, maybe an upgraded water system, perhaps even a separated stormwater, wastewater sewer system that are upgraded amenities, upgraded infrastructure that I call infrastructure for the 21st century. Those are things I think that are expected by a lot of our residents and things that we should very much consider doing. The question is always going to be, how do we pay for it? And it all goes back to responsible governance and responsible finances. But this council has been clear, not just in talking about priorities, but in its actions, that having modern infrastructure is essential. So we will do what we can to deliver on that. The great thing about local government, and why I've always wanted to be in local government and proud to be in local government, is that we're the closest to the people, but we're the nimblest, the quickest to respond, and the most creative we can think outside the box. And I just wanted to take a little example, and we think about the East David Street project, right? The city received 75% funding for the sewer portion of that, $0 in grant dollars for the water portion. But the management team put their heads together and came up with a way to do the water portion of it in-house, saving hundreds, if not millions of dollars. That's delivering on council's priorities by being nimble, quick and sure. And I want to thank Shane and his team for taking on that project and being creative and outside the box. Kathy, if you want to go to the next slide. Safe streets, as it says, is the core of city services. Fighting crime, putting out fires, keeping residents safe. That's more than anything what you think about when you think about what does a city do. And it's critically important. Council has made very clear that having safe streets is a priority. And it has done so by committing to putting more officers on the streets, funding 24 firefighting positions, not including the chief. But safe streets mean a lot more than that. And every city department has a hand in keeping safe streets. So we need to make sure that we support all our departments in an equitable way, because they all support the core functions. Whether they're a direct or an indirect provider of services, they are in some way, shape, or form driving safe streets. Council's made clear this is important, and that's one of the reasons why it's a core tenet of the RISE principles. And Kathy, if you'll go to the next one. As always, you're ahead of me. Economic development. That's the E in RISE. I think I've already made clear my position as your city manager that the city's economy does not generate enough revenue to support the cost of its city government. If city government is going to be able to afford itself, we're going to have to rebuild the economy to broaden the tax base, drive sales tax, get properties back on the tax rolls, and develop a real sustainable tourism economy. That's not going to happen with a snap of a finger. It's going to take a concerted effort to drive economic development. Now, that could mean that some funds that could go to another program or go to lower the tax burden may go to these efforts instead. But unless we do something, the population of the city is going to continue to decline. It's going to continue to get older, and fewer taxpayers are going to be here to fund the higher costs of government. Think of economic development kind of as a plant. It starts out as a seed, it germinates over time and grows into a plant. But it can only do so if the soil, the water, and the solar conditions are ripe. So City Council planted a seed in this year's budget, and I'm pleased to report that we have hired an economic developer, and he will start on Monday. but we need more seeds. So I plan on applying for funding in this year's CFA to design an economic development strategy to create and map a process to move our economic development forward. We need a plan, and we need a plan that we can follow, and not just something that we leave on a shelf and let collect dust. Something that talks about our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, our threats, and concrete strategies on how to address those. This is a map that's important for residents, it's important for management and city employees, it's important for council, but more importantly, it's important for investors. They'll know what this community wants, what its strengths and its weaknesses are, and will work hand in hand in attracting investors and in attracting the investors that the community would like to have here. And while we are not going to wait for any seeds to germinate, we're going to do everything we can to move as quickly as we can in the opportunities that come available to us to drive economic development. But we do need some more tools to do the work, and this is somewhat how we start. Thank you, Kathy. And in conclusion, council has expressed to me a set of priorities that revolve around the RISE principles. I thought starting a conversation about these principles would be a good backdrop for the 2026 budget process. But more than that, RISE generates a list of deliverables that the management team is slated to work on and to deliver over the next several months and years. All of this working towards the goals of stronger finances, much improved infrastructure, safer streets, and a modern economy that supports the cost of government. I thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Tom. Questions or comments from council?
Number one, if you look at slide 6, responsible finance, job number 1. Fonda, I think you're the man. You've done a great job on that. And, you know, last year's budget was just awesome. Hardly any debate compared to years past. I'm very happy that you're sitting in a position to oversee our finances. You've done good, and so is your management team.
I agree with that. Thank you for the kind words.
Absolutely. And the next slide, underappreciated infrastructure. I can't begin to thank DPW enough, but it is underappreciated. And the upcoming project that they have, we got to ask the city to be patient, because I think it's a lot for DPW. And every step of the way, they're going to need a pat on the back, because they're going to be faced with being in the middle of a job at a project, and then they got to go to a broken water line or this and that, and move all the equipment. This is not going to be an easy task. It's probably going to be longer than anyone wants, but they deserve and they will deserve a super pat on the back when you do this. This is something that not only underappreciated, but it's going to be unprecedented for our department to be able to tackle something like this, and I really appreciate it. On the next slide, safe streets, services. Obviously, our police and fire, we finally made the hires to make this a reality, and I look forward to the reality and safer streets again than what we've had recently. And I know the challenges, understand the challenges, the more and more state laws and even some federal laws, but more state laws prohibiting some of the police to be able to do it. It's been a tough ask for the city to have patience. We're understaffed, and new sets of codes and laws. What used to take a police officer 40 minutes to fill out a little paperwork and make an arrest now takes 4.5 hours, and they just can't get to it. I've sat through the presentations. I get it. I see it. And when they prioritize, I'm very happy with at least the aspect that they tried to prioritize the children of the city. And unfortunately, the sex crimes and things like that are happening here. I can't thank the police department enough for making that a priority. In our fire department, now that we've manned up, hopefully, and I know they do a great job, and being incorporated with code enforcement, hopefully we can give each other some relief here in the future, as well as more recently since the last administration. I know that's already happened. So thank you guys, all of you, and public safety and our city clerk. I'm very happy that you have an assistant these days. Talking about underappreciated. Holy cow, Kathy, God bless you. I mean, I don't know how you did it. And I just want to say that now I'm an assessor and everything. So I see things coming back, and it all goes back to that slide about financial restructuring and responsibility. And again, Fonda, you've done a great job. When it comes to the economy, every one of us wants economic development. Every one of us. We do, in fact, have a developer willing to take the leap of faith. And as you know, meeting after meeting, I can't help but say, we got to jump on these guys. They came to us in January, and to continue with the answer, we don't know how to move the property forward, to me is not good enough. And I'll probably touch on that later again. But I think that we're going to lose these guys, and these guys are proposing a game changer for the city. The sales tax revenue that could be generated by what they've thrown out there, or, you know, the other developers that you say have come to us. That, I think it's time council learns more about these developers and tries to offer some support. I know we've talked about it, but I think our planning department needs to really come together and get the answers that we're looking for to move forward. Because we're going to lose these guys. And if we do, we do, and we're just going to sit here again and hold our hands and say, well, nobody wants to take a leap of faith in Augsburg, and we got somebody right here that does. So I'd like to move forward with this project, and we need to start knowing exactly how to move this property, diamond property that is forward, and other properties. And I think if we can do that, this whole economy, every business in Augsburg will benefit. Our sales tax numbers will be through the roof, well, at least enough to try and make up for some of the losses, and hopefully enough where we don't have to keep using our fund balance just to make operations work. And that's about all I got to say here. And thank you all.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else?
Fonda, it's a good presentation here, and I like the acronym RISE. You know, quite frankly, since I got back on council in 2019, 2020, I've always seen the city as having to rebuild. And as much as we'd like to see everything come together yesterday and tomorrow, so to speak, you know, we recognize that it's not going to be, you know, that's not going to be the case. I like the fiscal responsibility here. I like the fact that we're slowly starting to rebuild. And, you know, let's face it, any of us up here are probably not going to see the great prosperity the city has in the very near future. We're the building blocks. We're the foundation that hopefully keeps this on the rails, this mission on the rails, and this type of leadership through the management team, and more importantly, our department heads and our great staff for the city of Augsburg to keep much of this together. As far as the economic development, to echo Dan's sentiment a little bit regarding some of the vacant properties, and I recognize that there's state laws, and what we need to know is through our state legislators whether or not we're going to need to enact legislation in some fashion to be able to get some of these properties up, right? And I recognize that. I'm kind of curious. One of the things that kind of popped in the presentation, what is our policy regarding outside water and sewer rates for businesses just outside? You know, we've got the auto parts store going in at the old Collins Ford dealership. We've got another one in the town of Oswegatchie that's just in the Seaway Shopping Plaza. The Seaway Shopping Plaza. And I recall it years ago, and I'm pretty sure we upgraded it. It used to be at the rate of assessment times the tax base, and basically making that entity or business almost tax.
Effectively speaking, you adjust you adjust to the market value using the equalization rate, and they pay the city's taxes.
Right.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's
a little-
effectively what
That's a
it
little
is.
boost in a bit of one, for outside starters with the activity that we got going on and a lot of the cleaned up properties that we have. So appreciate the time and the effort they put into putting this together and well done.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Okay, I'll just offer a brief comment. First, to thank Mr. Cronus for his presentation this evening, provides his analysis of significant issues the city faces, what these issues are, how we got here, suggested paths and strategies going forward to deal with the issues. I know Mr. Cronus completes his first year as city manager June 30. I appreciate his efforts during this past year to learn about the city. And specific to this RISE presentation, his consultation with city council, city department heads and staff, the business community, and citizens in general to formulate recommendations that the city needs to focus and invest in economic growth if we are to rebound from the struggles of the past few decades. Success in this effort will likely be incremental. It will take time, patience, and sacrifice expected of all of us if we are to move ahead. Thank you for this presentation. I think it's very important that the community hear the results of the discussions and the contributions that have been made by all those who spoke to you about these very serious issues. We have one public hearing tonight. It is regarding an ordinance to amend section 149 of the Orangeburg Municipal Code entitled Parks. It is going to be bill number 72, and I will open that public hearing now. If anyone attending in person would like to speak regarding the public hearing, please come down to the podium and you will have 5 minutes to speak. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to speak regarding the public hearing, please use the raised hand feature in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and you will have 5 minutes to speak.
I do not see any hands raised, Mayor.
Okay, I have been informed that a citizen submitted a statement to the city clerk, such statement pertaining to the public hearing, and I ask the city clerk to read that statement at this time.
Due to extreme heat and humidity and a phone internet compromise due to a scam, I am unable to participate in this council meeting and public hearing. Number one, I understand Councilor Silly's position, too much regulation and unenforceability. With that said, local law enforcement needs ordinances and regulations to enforce the law. In this case, the ability to stop undesirable behavior at the local boat launches. Number two, please consider Chief Kern's request for additional officers while preparing the 2026 city budget. Last week, I unfortunately needed our city police assistance. They were kind, respectful, and extremely professional, helping me through an extremely embarrassing and costly experience. I cannot speak highly and appreciatively enough of their support and help. I am in support of the proposed resolution to close the launches from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. unless legitimacy to be in those locations is determined by local law enforcement. Best, Catherine Reinhold.
And with that, I declare this public hearing closed. Brings us to personal appearance. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium and you will have 5 minutes. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 5 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Wendy Hamilton, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open.
Good evening. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but the heat got me. I wanted to comment on Mr. Cronus's, on his RISE principles. And I want to challenge council to stick to the roadmap and not be distracted by the squeaky wheels or the shiny things, because I think that's been the downfall in the past over the years. If you look at what our history has been, sometimes we have had this roadmap, we've had the vision, but we've gone off course. So I appreciate that council has provided those priorities to Mr. Cronus, that he's worked it into this general roadmap, and I'm hoping that we will hear more specificity to come. I'm glad we've taken this step to hiring the economic development person. I think that is a very clear step to actually getting a plan that we can follow. I would also challenge council to help citizens make their voices known and heard, not just through the few phone calls or individual calls that go to individual council members, but in more open and public forums where, as was noted, this is where we can have this healthy debate, an exchange of ideas and thoughts and concerns, and not in the 5 minutes or 2 minutes that's provided in council, and which isn't always an appropriate place to have those discussions. So I would ask council to think about ways that we could further involve the public. And I challenge the public to voice your opinion when asked, whether that's a survey, whether it's attending a public forum, whether it's coming to council and using the 2 or 5 minutes you have. Make your views known so that council gets a sense of what the majority is, not just the singular individual with a problem. I would also say to citizens of Ogdensburg, to help lessen the burden on staff, follow the code, whether you agree with it or not, just follow it. Let's have less emphasis on trying to go after all of that and put the staff's energy into things that build our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not see any other hands raised, Bill.
That's,
Yes.
well, again, the personal appearance, we invited people to come to the podium to speak for 5 minutes and no one came forward. Right, it's consensus of council to allow, yes, all right. So if anyone would like to come to the podium and address council, you have up to 5 minutes to do so.
On 805 Riverside Avenue. And I know you addressed the parking lot up there, it's been terrible up there, kids speeding around. You go up and look at that parking lot, it's all tore up. The skid marks all the way down Riverside Avenue. And I'm glad you're addressing that. And another thing, we, citizens on 805 or Riverside Avenue is right across the street, the old Hawkesbury Bank Park. Now, we're made to keep our properties up and everything. And I was just wondering why that property ain't, they want for that property, taking care of that side of the street. The broken down buildings. There's all kinds of animals over there. We've seen deer, we've seen woodchucks, we've seen rats, foxes, homeless people. I don't know what you can do to address that, but I think it should be addressed sometime. And another thing is, we get this ad on our phone about the sewage dumped at the Oswegatchie and St. Lawrence River. And I'd like to know what's that. If that river cross is going to be, you can't swim there, you can't do nothing there anymore. Sewage problem is terrible. And we do get wet from that sewage. So I guess I got all I got to say. I'm sure my neighbors have something to say.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
move it. I don't say move the car, that's not a game. Just kidding, Cam. My name's David Bell. My wife and I live at 803 Riverside Avenue. We've lived there for 40+ years. And unfortunately, it's come to a head. Years pass, yes, the traffic was tolerable, but now it's getting crazy. When we talk about safe streets, I hate to say, I don't want to say I told you so, but someone's going to get seriously hurt. And unfortunately, the chief has his hands full with the patrol, the numbers that they have. I understand that. But I think it's the certain few. The numbers, the cars that we see are the same ones, unfortunately. And they can't be there. We can see them. We can see the colors. I can see the plate numbers and so on and so forth. And I don't want to see someone get in trouble, but enough's enough. We've got to do something. I don't want to speak about this across the street, that right in my front yard, but I don't see the river anymore, unfortunately. But if we can just take a look at that, just take a look at the speed, take a look at how do we slow things down? Do we put another stop sign in here and there? Because they have basically about 4 block radius. We're the first block, Bob McDonald, then the next block is Jordan up the street. Next one's the Bishop Yard, and the next one, then we got a stop sign. So they only have about a 5 block speedway that they take off from one end to the other. Come out of the news parking lot, they're flying. Get ready, because you can hear them coming. And they don't stop. I'm just afraid a kid's gonna go up the street, and bang, a dog's gonna get out. And people's animals are very precious to them. That animal gets killed. It means a lot. I just like to see it just kind of slow it down. Take another look back, see what's going on. Put up a police car, maybe, I don't know, you don't have the personnel, once again, to have them sit there for hours on end, because it doesn't happen. It could be 8 o'clock, it could be 10 o'clock, it could be 2 o'clock in the morning. You can't sit there all night, and I understand. But I just want to say thank you, for everything you guys do, and girls, and I appreciate it. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Kathy, is that microphone working? Because I'm getting some text messages that people aren't hearing.
The light is on.
Yeah, it's on. Okay, thank you.
Talk rate.
Good evening. I'm Diane Bell, David's wife, and like we said, we've been living in that neighborhood for 40-some years. There's always been kids down in the parking lot. You'd hear the loud music, whatever. Eventually it would stop. But like David said, now they do donuts down there. I counted a guy from my bedroom window go around 7 times one night. And there's people, other kids standing there cheering him on. If he was to lose control of his car or hit the curb or anything, he could kill any one of those kids. The smoke from his tires, the burnt rubber, I couldn't even see the piles of salt down at the port. It was that thick. And my 14-year-old grandson was in the window with me, and he said, Grandma, call the police. We do call the police. They do come down. And I do have to say, since the article had come out about what you were thinking of doing down there, we see less traffic, but there's a few that go by just to torment us. If we're out there in the yard or something, they'll speed by. And ride down by there, because there is a speed limit sign at the, right after you come out of the boat launch, that says 25 miles per hour. It's not 30, it's 25 miles per hour, and has been there for a long, long time. So I just want to thank you, and hopefully something can become better. And like David said, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. The last couple of weeks, they've been tormenting, and they come down side by side. Last week, David witnessed it, and the girls were sitting on the windows were down. They're sitting on the door jambs, going down on the streets, in the cars. And it's just, somebody's going to fall. Something was to run out and they had to slam their brakes on. Somebody's going to get ejected out of one of those vehicles. And they know we've made the phone calls. I know the other people here have made many phone calls, and the police do come down. One night, about right after this article came out, they were down. We counted them 15 times they went down by. And I know they've given out a few tickets recently too. So we're not seeing as much traffic, but if nothing happens and nobody addresses it, they'll go back to their old ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Hello, Lori Murray. I live at 118 Hamilton Street. So I am on my house, my house faces that parking lot. I've been there for 20 years. We have dealt with the kids for 20 years. This is probably the last year and a half has been the worst. And it's not just summer. Come winter, put some ice in that parking lot. They love to take their trucks out and do donuts even during the winter. So it's not just a summer thing. There are fights galore. There are boxing matches. We can watch them from our backyard. Our fence has been damaged several times because when we call the police and they do come, the kids then run through mine and my neighbor's backyard. There's camera footage. Fences are broke. They're literally on, my neighbor called me on a Friday night at 10 o'clock at night. She was afraid. She was home alone. Kids were running through, right through next to her car, right up her driveway. So there's just no responsibility down there. I think if we had a curfew and we could get them out of there at 9 o'clock, the neighborhood is 50 and older. I think we could all say 9 o'clock is an appropriate time to have them out of that space. Boaters, I know they're concerned. I've seen the posts on Facebook. We're not saying empty cars or cars attached to boats, trailers, but the kids hanging out of the cars, the music, the loud basses, the racing side by side. We've seen that all. It is a matter of time before one of these children does get hurt, and then you're gonna have their parents standing here because somebody's really gonna get hurt. And it may not just be the racing, it may be the fights that happen in that parking lot. It goes on every night. Since the post has come out on Facebook, like Diane said, it has slowed down and it has not been as bad, but we have been woken up at 4 in the morning of kids over there in the parking lot with loud music, basses going, waking us up to the point that we were walking over there to say, we're trying to sleep 4 in the morning. So it's not just 10, 11, 12. It is all hours of the night that these kids are out doing God knows what. We thank the police department. We do call. We have seen some increased patrol going by, but it's going to continue if there's not something set in place because the kids now know. I have stepson who has friends that are over there. They now know we can't be told we have to leave. So it's going to continue if something's not done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, and with that, that brings us to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do not.
Brings us to our consent agenda, that the claims as enumerated in general fund warrant number 12-2025 in the amount of $1,969,853.96. And library warrant number 12-2025 in the amount of $0. And capital fund warrant number 12-2025 in the amount of $83,214.50. And community development fund warrant number 12-2025 in the amount of $75.98. And community renewal fund warrant number 12-2025 in the amount of $0 as audited. The same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
Second.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Silly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim, approved.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
I see the bronze contract. Is that the final payment for the cheese plant area?
It's not the final payment, but it's the vast majority of the balance. I think there's about $5,000 or $6,000 left.
But that's the job.
That is correct.
Thank you.
We have one appointment tonight. I make a motion to appoint Amanda Frary to a 3-year term on the Pride and Beautification Commission. Term to begin June 23, 2025, and then December 31, 2027. I so move. Second. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Silly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
Our first item of business will be read by Police Chief Mark Kearns.
An ordinance to amend section 149 of the Ogdensburg Municipal Code entitled Parks.
I'll move that.
Second that.
Any comment from council?
I'd just like to say, I hope this addresses the concerns of everybody who spoke to me, at least in terms of that aspect, that we brought several concerns to the table. I will support this. I had several people email me throughout the last 2 weeks I think only one did not support it, and then when I explained to him that, you know, it's gonna be pick and choose, and as long as people aren't causing trouble, they can stay and enjoy the river, and things like that. It wasn't to target innocent folks, it was to target trouble. And that person agreed, if the police need some teeth to clean this area up, then let's do it. So, other than that, I've had several emails in support, and obviously we have a crowd here tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm still of the opinion that this is not going to solve the problem. There are already ordinances on the books that deal with every type of behavior that's going on down there. We don't have the staff or the ability to enforce those ordinances. Going in and telling them they're going to move, I think the same thing could be accomplished by the police car pulling in and sitting there for 15 minutes. These guys that are raising Cain down there are not going to sit there if they know they're being watched. I'm just not in favor of adding another ordinance to the books when we already have things that should be solving the problem.
Anyone else?
I would speak in favor of this. We've listened to the presentation by the police chief. We've listened to the neighbors. I've witnessed it. I've driven down at all hours of the day and night since this subject has come up. Something similar we went through with Morissette Park, and we ended up closing those gates. We have to do something, and I know they'll just be pushed someplace else, but at least we're making headway. So I think we need to continue to look at ideas like this and expand the ability of the police to enforce and to say, you know, you're not doing it now. And that's the problem. When they get there, they're not doing it. So then they can't really say leave. Now they can say leave. And that's the important part of this. And that's what I do.
I had a citizen send me over 40 videos of severe, what I think are severe traffic violations. None of them were in the parking lot. They were on Riverside Drive between the parking lot and the Greenville. And I think we need to focus on those traffic violations severely. Again, vehicular traffic in that area, we shut it off, but it's not stopping the drag racing up and down Riverside Ave, Patterson Street, Green Street. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Yeah, real quick, I support this, obviously, recognizing the need there. And yeah, are we moving them along? Yeah, maybe, but ultimately, when they continue that kind of behavior, there could be citations that can come with that. And there's consequences for those actions. And I recognize the fact that there are a lot of ordinances on the book, but it all starts, and to your comment, Storm, it's all part of, the rebuilding aspect. You're right. We don't have the resources really for Morris Street, the speeding on Morris Street or Patterson Street, or I got passed one day on Proctor Avenue, about a year ago, well, it's longer than that actually. But at any rate, with that, it gives our law enforcement a little bit of weight to hinder that activity, that continual activity, and make it better for the residents that have it. So, I support this resolution and your efforts.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I would just echo a comment that Commissioner Trim made at or Councilor Trim, made at the last meeting about, realize there's an issue and a problem at the Boat Launch area. Police chief and management have come to us with their suggested solution that they think improves the situation. So I'd like to have given them the opportunity to administer the change in the code that they have expected to move tonight, and then continue to explore ways and ideas to address the other significant traffic concerns, particularly as it relates to speeding on city streets with long stretches, where there are no stop signs, and you know, it's a related issue, but it's a separate issue at the same time. So anxious for some conversation about that and something. But I do support this one.
I have to admit, I haven't done my homework and I haven't read chapter 1, general provisions 1 to 3. But exactly what are the penalties for violation of this one?
Well, everything in our code right now is subject to an OMC ticket, which our OMC tickets, which does need to be amended. Worst case scenario is a monetary fine and up to 15 days in jail, which is the standard language for any violation of the law. But how this will be enforced will be as any other trespass would be. My folks will be instructed to handle this as a penal law type situation. They'll be asked nicely to leave. They will leave. If they don't leave, then they'll be arrested for violation level trespass, which will have a little bit more teeth and send a lot more of a message than just giving someone a simple ticket.
Anyone else? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Counselor Trim? Mayor Tulley?
Yes?
Counselor Selly?
No.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronis.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement with Gymo Architecture, Engineering, and Land Surveying of Watertown, New York for a sum for engineering and architectural services not to exceed $331,500 for the New York Swims Pool and Bathhouse Rehabilitation Project.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Sure. The city received a $3.1 million grant to upgrade the pool and bathhouse facilities. Part of that process is to bring in a architecture and engineering firm to be able to do those drawings and to run the bidding process. We had 9 consultant applications or submittals. The selection committee chose 3 to interview, and of those 3, Gymo was the unanimous selection. So we recommend that council approve this.
Any questions or comments?
I'm in favor of this, Fonda, but what is the local share of this project and can any of it be done in-house?
The local share is $600,000 and change. I think 321 is the number, but don't quote me on that exactly, but it's in the $600,000 range. These are specialized services. If there is something that we can do as an in-kind, we will try. But our guys and gals in DPW have a lot of other things that they have to do.
They've already got an awful lot of it.
They do. And this will go simultaneously with the driveway project. We're trying to stagger them, but my guess is it's just not going to work that way. Every year we wait on these projects, they get more and more expensive, but the grant monies don't change.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Trim?
Yes.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes?
Counselor Selly?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Police Chief Mark Kearns.
A resolution to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with St. Lawrence County, Canton Village Police Department, Messina Village Police Department, Potsdam Village Police Department, and Gouverneur Village Police Department to formalize the relationship between the St. Lawrence County Sheriff, the St. Lawrence County Drug Task Force, and the St. Lawrence County Human Trafficking Task Force.
Second.
A brief overview.
Sure, absolutely. So all these partner agencies have been partner agencies on the St. Lawrence County Drug Task Force for over 30 years together. Until recently, there really has not been a signed agreement until Sheriff Engel came into office. So he brought this forward, and about at that same time, the Sheriff's Office received a grant for a human trafficking task force. So to combine those two task force together under one agreement. Basically, what it is stating here is each agency's department head can ask another agency's department for manpower or equipment without having to like make official written requests or anything like that. We can just call up and say, hey, we need some help. And we've been doing that for years. Now it's just officially in writing. And to be honest with you, it doesn't necessarily even have to be drug related or human trafficking related. We've used it for any major crimes, whether it be robberies, homicides. None of these agencies are big enough to do it on our own. So we need to be able to pick up that phone and say, hey, can you send me your detectives? And that's what we do. And we just lend a helping hand. And that's what this MOU just finalizes here.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yes. The human trafficking, is that a federal grant?
It comes from a private entity, and it should be I'm hopeful that our next meeting, Mr. Cronus has asked to have them come do a presentation for council. So I'm hoping at our next meeting, but it comes from actually a private donor that is funding that. So actually any overtime we work on the human trafficking task force is fully refunded as well.
Is this the TiVo Foundation?
Been asked not to.
Okay.
The multi-billionaire does not like public recognition.
There, so.
I just want to say, I really appreciate the human trafficking task force being had. It's just, it's so heinous to look at the numbers, what's going on in recent years, human trafficking, children, and things like that.
Yeah, and it's been an amazing grant, and they'll really give you a deep dive into it, but they have counseling services that are being funded by this, a crime analyst. They're funding a detective full-time at the sheriff's office, besides paying all the overtime for our memberships from all these police departments that work at part-time. Without a doubt, when you get involved in human trafficking, there is immigration issues that pop up. They fund an immigration attorney for these victims. So it's so victim-based. It's all about helping victims. Like that's the whole intent here, is to find the victims of human trafficking and provide them the services. So hate that we have to have it, but it's a need.
Well, with the international border, and the issues just north of us here, and some of the landlocked properties from the United States and into Canada. So I would imagine even with this task force, with the local and county, local municipalities, we could also get some assistance from the federal.
We do. They work hand in hand with, we're also members of a task force through the federal government called the Border Enforcement Security Team through Homeland Security Investigations. And this human trafficking task force works hand in hand with that team.
I hope it's effective, and I hope they make a difference with it.
So that was gonna be another question in regards to if it was gonna pay like Stone Garden and things, but I'm sure the details will be out in the future. Budget time and all that.
Yeah, so there'll be no money up front or anything. It'll just be as we have two members that are on that team, and as they're asked to go help out and work every quarter, I'll just ask for reimbursement. So it's in its infancy. I have no idea how it's gonna look.
Will we have a special detective?
Actually, I have a sergeant and one of our school resource officers are assigned to that team.
Good.
Yep, they were. I had several people apply, and they were interviewed by the committee, and that's who was selected. Sergeant Brittany Kenyon and Patrolman Ashley Streeter.
Good. Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, anyone else?
Thank you.
Catherine, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Sully,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Chivo,
Yes.
Counselor Trim, approved.
That brings us to old business. Does anyone have any old business this evening? Go ahead.
Old business for So again, I'd like to get an update on the Diamond property. You know, it's just been too long. I think that we need to move forward. I think we're gonna lose these guys. On top of that, I'd like to hear from our planning. We used to get it in our updates about once a month, the planning department would throw us an update of all the things that they're working on. And I don't think I've seen anything this year. I wouldn't know a planner from this firm if they were standing in front of us. If we could get a presentation from them soon on the things they're working on, or, but most of all, I definitely want to see a call on this Diamond property move forward. I'm really struggling with it, as we know, I bring it up every meeting, as to how we can move forward. Prior to COVID, a very similar project, a music venue and things like that was approved by the DEC. And things were gonna move forward until COVID set in, and all of a sudden there's an issue. And I would think, you know, beyond the caller, indicating that this might just look like a shiny stone, I think a music venue like that was, in your part of your presentation, you said, what does the community want? And our rec department just did a survey, and that was the #1 answer. They want a music venue. And looking on top of it, a boardwalk, a hotel, convention center, things like that, a marina, restaurant. I just think it could be a game changer for the city. It could make Ogdensburg a destination. And as far as I'm concerned, we're just not moving quickly. And that's my 2 cents on that. I really want to hear from planning people and see what's up.
So if I could make 2 comments on it. Number one, I will be doing a presentation next council meeting on the projects that are going on. And we'll talk about where we're looking to move forward as far as the CFA and grants are concerned. So that'll give you a point. Bringing the firm in at $250 an hour to talk to council when I can provide, I'm doing the project management on it anyway, I think is prudent. To talk about the Diamond property, I think I've tried to keep council aware. We know the legal challenge. I've reached out to our assemblymen about it. I've reached out to an independent attorney, and I've reached out to a independent planning firm to talk about the legal issue involved in this property. The answer I've received back late last week from the assemblyman's office is that their council recommends that we go through home rule and get permission from the legislature to sell the property. I received this afternoon the similar answer from our independent attorney. So it's not looking good from that standpoint, but just because that's the answer doesn't mean we don't have an end game here. There are 2 ways to get around this issue. Well, there's actually 3 ways to get around it, but 2 viable ones. One is home rule legislation, which we will work with the assemblymen and our state senator to do if that's council's wish. The second option is to transfer ownership of the land into an LDC, a specific LDC that can, at that point in time, do that. That LDC would have to be created. That's going to take time as well. The third option is to subdivide the parcel and keep the waterfront portion of it in the city's ownership, and then you would be able to transfer the remaining non-waterfront lands. I don't necessarily think that is a viable option, but it is an option, and I always share all of the options. So those are, at the moment, the 3 directions that we need to go through. You get these answers, and then we have to really dig in to say, okay, if these are the answers, then, you know, what are the next steps? And we're not quite there yet to be able to do that. But as of right now, today, unless a third individual or a third firm comes in and tells me otherwise, that is the direction I've gotten from council, from the assemblyman's office, and our independent council that has looked into this.
So I don't think there was, I think the way this group, this organization has come forward, what they do is they take investors in communities like ours and they bring them together to create a public and private partnership. And some of the examples that I sent in the email on Boa property that's along waterfront were just that, where the city never gave up ownership So sale of the property wasn't really an issue. It was more like leasing the property and the city maintains control of what happens. Yet the developers come in to develop. And if that's an option as well, I'd like to explore that and see what these other communities are doing that have these public-private projects on their BOA property on waterfront. And I think our answer is there. I think we've already had the answer. It's just, it's where we go with it. But I look forward to the presentation. And hopefully we can see some of these examples of what other communities have done and maybe use that. Maybe it's home legislation, home rule, excuse me. And if that's the case, whatever, but I think there's other options here. I look forward to the presentation. I do look forward to hearing from the firm on this as well. Thank you. That's all I need to say.
Of course.
When you give that presentation, will it be a more in-depth explanation of your organization? Donna, could you speak up? When you give your presentation, will there be a sort of an in-depth education on what those first two options are?
There will be now.
Good. Without knowing the details of that.
Certainly.
Fonda, I don't necessarily think it's the best option, but if we were to subdivide that property, do we have any idea how wide a strip we'd have to keep between the river and the portion we're looking to develop?
Yeah, I don't really have an answer to that right now.
I personally can think of lots of things that could be done down there on the city's behalf with the property being used for something else. But I also know in the past, we've lost developers because the city has insisted on controlling the waterfront. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another, I think.
Part of that has to do with the fact that on the 601, we qualify for so much more grant funding than others are going to qualify for. You know, the negative on that is that, you know, any developer is going to want to have waterfront control. And if it's a public entity, it now becomes the public has to have access to it, and that may not work with the business model. So as you say, 6 of one, half dozen of the other is the perfect way of putting it.
And I think that's why this organization never suggested a sale. They've always wanted the public-private partnership, use of the water for public good and public interest. And the biggest thing that I see here is sales tax, not just from that venue of their project, but if you bring a venue like they're talking into the city, I mean, every business in the city is gonna gain. They're gonna gain business. They're gonna gain money. We're gonna gain more sales tax for our budget. And it maybe Fonda has another developer with something else that could raise even more sales tax. But that presentation we had tonight clearly indicates we need sales tax. We can't raise taxes. We've got to start lowering taxes. Sales tax is the answer. And that's the direction I believe we need to go. And the recent survey by the rec department indicates people in this city want a music venue. And I think it's the perfect complementary project. So I would just like to see us move forward. I would like to see what the DEC said before, when I believe they gave permission for a group to do a project down there that was similar to this. And then COVID set in and went away. But I think DEC has to be part. I know the DEC has to be part of anything that happens there. And what their take is on this. If I'm not mistaken, the reason that they liked it was because they don't want, you can't have housing. You can't have anything where people are digging in. Everything here is on top of the soil for public interest, public good. And that's how you get these grants. And frankly, anything BOA related has first priority, I believe, for grants in New York State, or at least we're up there on the list. So, and I know that they didn't sink millions and millions of dollars in cleanup without wanting us to develop it. So somehow, some way, if it's a public-private project that these guys have proposed, I think that might be the way to go, where we don't lose control of our waterfront and what happens on that property. But yet we still gain, the monetary resources and the vibrancy. And
everybody in this community, it makes up from a project like this, benefits. So, all right, I said that I was gonna quit talking about it earlier. I'll quit talking now.
My issue with this whole thing is I keep hearing about this project. I want to see something. I don't know if this could be some fly-by-nighter that like we've had before, where they got all these ideas and then we buy into it and it sits there. But I want to see something concrete before I say, yeah, this sounds like, I don't know what you're even talking about half the time with these people. I want to see something. I want to see a picture of what it's going to look like. I want to see numbers. I want to see, I don't want, oh, these investors. Well, who are these? I mean, are they just some guys?
So they have concept.
Well, I want to see the concepts. I did see those, but I want someone to come here, not formally, maybe have some type of informal meeting with these folks to say, all right, now we can look and get into who are these people. You know, I agree with Fonda with our legal things here, and being new, but I just.
I'm sorry, I just continue to believe you can't put the cart before the horse, okay? And until we have the legal knowledge to know that we can move forward with an RFP or an RFQ at some time, then it's premature to be talking about any developer, what possibly they could bring to the table. You know, we just keep spinning our wheels listening to, you know, it has the appearance that you prejudge this. This is the time you want to play with and move forward. I appreciate that, sales tax and whatever, but I think that needs to be measured against any other possible developer who might have interest in that. You know? So to have a presentation at any time from any developer before we're actually ready to issue an RFP and RFQ, I don't think is the way.
And Mayor, if I could add, we are working in unison, working through the legal question and also putting together the RFP at the same time. The RFP should be done around August 22nd. And so we should probably have good answers by then, you know, maybe a recommendation from my office on how to move forward, and then the document to be able to get out to the public. So I know it doesn't move as fast as anyone would like to, but there are a lot of moving parts here, and I think you want to make sure, to the mayor's point, that you know exactly what you can do or what your strategy forward is. There is a strategy. We can get there. The question is, what does council want to do? They'll weigh the trade-offs one way or the other from the different options. And at the same time, we're getting ready with the RFP. So once council has the information, makes a decision, we can issue the RFP and we'll know exactly what to put in the RFP so the developers know what the rules of the game are, and then they can move forward. If I could have it tomorrow, I would. I cannot. So we'll get it to you as quickly as possible with a drop dead date of August 22nd for me to review.
But I do think once we have the green light, it's faster.
Yeah,
certainly. You know,
And you don't know what'll come of that either. You might have to be coming out of the woodwork with other projects or entities, or other entities coming forward with a development of some sort. You know, but
I would just hope that we would see at least a communication that we hear you, we know that you're interested, but we're working still through all the process we need to. Over the years with council, I've seen where we have thought that we would get multiple bids from an RFP, and we've ended up with the original person at a lower rate because they then realized there was no competition or less beneficial offering. So I just would like to at least let them know that we're hearing them. We know they're interested, but we have to work through this process. But again, full speed ahead. I look forward to getting this out there with an RFP as soon as we know all the legal details. But I do not want to get a presentation before we know what we can actually do.
but at least we had conversations with the specific developer. I think that message is the community. Right? We're trying to work through the steps we need before we can actually go forward and listen to what they have to offer.
I have expressed that to the developer.
right, any other old business?
I have one, Your Honor.
Yes.
Fire damage property on Riverside Drive. Is there any way we can speed to clean up of that up? I get very frustrated. I see other communities, they have something like that, and the site is cleared within a matter of days or weeks. For some reason here in Ogdensburg, it takes us 2 or 3 years to get things like that cleaned up. I don't know if there's any solution to it or what we're waiting on or what the problem is, but, you know, I drove by the other day and I understand the neighbor's frustration with that pile of garbage sitting there.
Well, I can tell you it's not going to be 3 years, but we are working closely hand in hand with the county and with the current property owner to get that mitigated as quickly as possible. And I'm going to leave the comments at this point to that because there are some legal issues.
Thank you. Any other old business?
Legal issues with the owner of the property? Not on our end.
Not on our end,
All
no.
right, that's all I.
I'd like to address the folks that are concerned that they can't see the river from their home. Is there any way we could trim the grass? We have a weed ordinance. Who owns the property?
I was gonna bring that up
Can
too.
we,
Is there any way we can
get a mower in there? And probably very dangerous to mow in there. I'm sure there's giant rocks and all kinds of garbage in there.
It's not quite
Probably
as,
gonna cost us some equipment damage.
it's not quite as simple as that, and I'll refer to my last answer. These are all concerns that we're aware of, and we're working through them with the proper channels. I know it's a lousy answer to give you, but it's the one I can give right now.
Yep.
Any other old business? Right, with that, any new business tonight?
I have a couple things, Your
Yes,
Honor,
please.
that I don't know if they truly come under new business or items for discussion. But I'm looking at the littering going on in the Greenbelt and boat ramps. And I'm wondering if it might be advantageous or disadvantageous to put trash receptacles back in there. I know one time they were there and we had problems with people putting their private garbage in them. I understand they were taken out, trying to encourage people to pack out what they pack in. But it's hard for me to complain about people dropping their litter when they have no alternative other than to, you know, put it in the backseat of their car or whatever and take it out. If we don't give them a solution, you know, are we aiding or abetting the process?
Let me run it by the management team. See, as the new guy in the room, there must have been some reasons why. Let me understand them and we'll see if we can come up with a solution.
We do have some, we just don't have as many as we did years ago, but I know I used one the other day at lunchtime myself, so I know we do have some.
And the other thing I had is, given the complaints that I'm getting about Riverside Drive and Green Street and Patterson Street, maybe we ought to have the management team look at putting some four-way stop signs to break those long stretches up. I'm not a big fan of stop signs, but I think that's a better solution than the city of Buffalo did with putting speed bumps in their residential areas. I definitely don't like speed bumps. It's something I think we need to look at to slow those guys down a little bit. We are going to have a tragedy if we don't. And I'm sure there's also streets on the other side of town that have the same issues.
I wouldn't have a problem with speed bumps, quite frankly. I mean, they are a deterrent. They're effective.
Thank you, sir. Any other new business? Right, so that brings us to items for discussion. Is there any items for discussion this evening?
I have one.
Please.
I received a very encouraging phone call today. It looks like the sale of the old Hackett's building is going to close in early July with renovations and construction starting almost immediately.
Very good. Thanks.
The purchaser is very positive about that, which is going to help both our property tax and our sales tax significantly, I believe.
Certainly welcome. Good news, okay. Anyone else items for discussion? Yes.
A couple times in the past, I've talked about the water chestnut plants. It's an invasive species. Tick Hewleton, very, very hard. I mean, if you go upriver of the dam, the Oswegatchie's just full. It looks like you can almost walk across it. And so that has spread. It's in the St. Lawrence River. And they should be a major concern here, not only for our own waterfront, but along the entire river. Last week, Brad Baldwin, who's been in contact with the mayor and I, he's leading a group from St. Lawrence University. I believe they're called the St. Lawrence Eastern Lake Ontario Invasive Species Management. They've removed over 700 young water chestnut plants recently, just at what I guess the official name is Tibbetts Creek by the state hospital. Locally, I think a lot of people call it Cribbles Creek, whatever, but it's, they know it's going down river in all the camps along Augsburg. It's spreading, and we want to urge all residents along the St. Lawrence to be vigilant of this species and try and remove them if they're found. See, John Tebow has pictures on his phone, and you can find these on the website, on different websites. On Friday, July 11th, from 10 to 3, they're having an organized removal of the species on the Oswegatchie River in Hewleton, and they're seeking volunteers there as well. I've begun a conversation with, I believe it's his brother or brother-in-law, on the use of chemicals, and they're going to start using chemicals to try and address the situation as well. I have a lot of questions on that, and we'll know more in the future, but that is going to take place in Hewleton. I think even the police chief told me about that initially, and so I started to inquire more. But this is a serious problem. And right there at Tibbetts Creek or Cribbles Creek, whatever you want to call it, it's a major walleye spawning bed, and with the DEC shutting down the restocking program prior to building the spawning beds like they say they're going to do. It's kind of like some terminology the mayor used earlier, putting the cart before the horse. And so I think combined, it's really going to have a serious effect on our walleye population. It's very unfortunate because it's really turned into something here in the city of Augsburg. And I think our fishery is great for economic development, increasing sales tax, and going. Again, it's a part of the E in RISE. We're going to keep referencing RISE wherever we can. So if people could be vigilant, now these pictures, were they taken
Red
from the
Mills.
camp? Red Mills as well. So that's even down a little bit further from Tibbetts Creek.
Mile and a half to.
It's here.
Boat launch.
Yeah, right at the boat launch. That's the boat, there we go.
Picture of the actual.
No, those washed up on shore
Right.
in the spring.
Yeah, I'll send you the link
Yeah,
to
sure.
the website if you want, and have all sorts of pictures. If anybody else wants it. Didn't I put it already on the
Yes.
city's page?
Yes, sir, you did, but I'll update it for you.
Okay, excellent. I'll send you that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just urge everybody to be vigilant and try and get rid of these as you see them. The next item for discussion, unless anybody has more comment. I've gotten complaints from a few people. They're a little nervous about the fireworks, the traveling fireworks business that's right across the street from the Sunoco gas station on Kent Street. Some people are a little bit nervous about maybe some kids buying fireworks, and lighting them off, and the proximity to the gas station. I guess has made some people nervous. I probably don't blame them. If they ask me to bring it up, I'm not sure how to address it, but I suspect start with public safety. I'm wondering if there's any concerns from our public safety guys. I'm wondering if it's on city property or not, and if codes has addressed it, or if they need permission, things like that.
It's in the town of Oswegatchie.
It is. Okay, that whole parking lot.
Yeah, basically, Save-A-Lot's the last place in the city.
Okay.
So
So do we work with the codes there or whatever? Can we ask them to move it a little bit?
I doubt they're gonna move it at this point in the year.
I think they just set it up, didn't they?
Yeah.
This week?
Yeah, they got 1 week of sales. That's all they get. About a third of it.
The line, down on the line runs from Save-A-Lot,
So I was just thinking if they moved it
through,
farther. in
Earl
the-
Muffler. Burger King is outside the city, McDonald's is inside the city. The auto store,
make some calls.
Verizon,
All right.
and the town of Oswego.
Can't make promises, as long as it calls.
I hear you. As long as it gets addressed for the folks that are concerned. I'm doing my job. Appreciate it. That's all I had for it.
Okay, anyone else? I just have one. Last Friday, I participated in a photo op where I received a check for $10,000 from St. Lawrence Federal Credit Union, which is intended to fund the use of municipal pool free of charge for youth and families for this summer season. They've done this before, I believe last year as well. And certainly the city expresses their appreciation to the management team, the board of directors at St. Lawrence Federal Credit Union. It's just one of many ways in which they support the community in the North Country, and to the benefit of North Country families, not just Oxford. So thank you to the credit. That brings us to citizen participation. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium. You have 2 minutes. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 2 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted, sir. It appears your line is open. Mr. McNamara? His line is showing open on my end, sir. I'm not sure why we can't hear him.
Greg, you have the opportunity to address council. Right? Is there anyone else, Kathy, who's looking to address council?
I do not see any other hands raised. I'm getting a notification, just so you're aware, Mayor, that it's showing that he is inactive, and now he has just dropped off. Would you like me to try him one more time? He's popped back in.
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. McNamara, it appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open, sir. Not sure how you want to proceed, Mayor. It's showing
Well,
open.
Unfortunately, Mr. McNair is unable to communicate to us. And so with no one else on queue, we do not have a need for executive session tonight, so I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Did I miss that everybody wears a blue memo?
Yes.